I live in Los Angeles. I don't get to see a lot of Italian movies, but this movie we saw last summer in Calabria, and it was delightful. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you wrote it and then co-wrote the screenplay, I believe, but the idea, where did it come from? And then, of course, the people will see this film now. But how difficult was it to put it together? It's a film, by the way, with a lot of special effects, and you will see it, not an easy feat.
Yes. Actually, I wrote it with collaboration also of a very good writer, which is Massimo Gaudioso, which usually writes for Matteo Garrone. And in my early stages here, there's a teacher of mine, which is Susanna Styron, and I met her at MFI, which was a workshop that it's held in a beautiful place in Greece. And it has been a very long process also because the writing process was long also because we had this location scouting trip, which was very important because the film is set in the United States, actually, and it's set into the Nevada desert, Area 51. And
does everybody know what Area 51 is, right?
Area 51 is a legendary place. It's like the place where aliens are supposed to be now working on the planet.
They're supposed to be aliens hidden. They're doing experiments on them.
Exactly. It's a secret base. It's a military base, actually, in reality, and it's secret. Nobody knows what's inside Area 51, but it's quite an amazing place. It's like 3 hours from Vegas. I don't know. Have you ever been there? Like it's in the middle of the desert, and there's this road who's like crossing this huge like flatland, and the road is called Extraterrestrial Highways, of course. And in the middle of it, there's this small village called Rachel. It's 54 inhabitants, and they are mainly cowboys and farmers, which is kind of weird because we're in the desert and you cannot see cows. And that's another weird thing because when you arrive there, you see signs warning you, like, be careful, beware cows. I mean, cows like are going around, beware, pay attention. And it's quite weird because you can't see any cow around. And but after a little while, you go on this road and you find another signal which clarifies it all, because it says basically, beware spaceships abducting cows. So that's basic. We understood, that's it. That's why we can't see any cow, because
they've all been abducted.
Yeah. But the thing that we actually couldn't sort out very clearly was, what's the deal for the aliens with the cows? I mean, why are they so into cows, But whatever. So basically, it was an incredible experience. Also because these people, which is, this village has really nothing in it. Like, it doesn't have a gas pump because it doesn't have a gas station. It doesn't have a supermarket, a mall, anything. The only thing that's there is a diner. And of course, it's like an alien-themed diner, right. Which is called Little Alien. Yeah, fantastic. Little, yeah. And so, but the people there, they really do actually believe that in Area 51, there are aliens engineers working with Earthling engineers for, the sake of humanity, for the progress of humanity. And that's, I think, fantastic. Also because these people here are really like they feel like they are like keeping and saving something really special, like a bigger connection to the universe. It's sort of, they feel like that. So it's really interesting. It's a very interesting place. It's a unique place. And because I was like, I was dealing with something really important for me, like I think because in my life, I mean, it happened to me to lose people that I cared a lot about, okay? So I met death of loving ones more than once. And so I decided that I had to explore what are the possible antidotes that humanity can put in place to face the fear of death and sorrow, And so that is why I headed to eventually to science fiction, because I read this very interesting book written by Emanuele Severino, which is a philosopher and a very wise man. And he was telling that basically on the search for an antidote, humanity relied on two main things. And one was mythology, which is basically fiction. The other one was science. And so I thought that science and science fiction would put together these two, tools that humanity tries all the time to use to find an explanation, or more than find an explanation, to really look for an antidote. So the real inspiration actually came from my father, because in the last part of his life, my father was like losing his memory. And one day I went home and I find him sitting on a chair, but like for hours, watching this very beautiful photograph portraying my mother, who was hanging on the wall. Because he was trying to keep her memory, And so an image came to my mind that this man, a scientist, like laying on a sofa in the middle of a desert with earphones, headsets, thank you, headsets on, and an antenna, like searching the universe for the voice of his late wife. And so from that image on, I developed the whole movie and the whole story. And it has been a very long process, also because in Italy, usually they don't produce sci-fi at all. Almost, yes, almost. Recently.
What about the movie, the person inside the tiger?
Gigrobot. Gigrobot is not sci-fi. It's like superheroes. Yeah. But it's a fantastic movie. I loved it. And but it's something totally different, because it's a first that too, actually. Very unusual. Very unusual. In fact, the director produced the movie himself, because it's not something that belongs to our tradition, to our cinema. It's not felt like something Italian, but I think that actually this kind of genre, and sci-fi especially, it's something universal. I mean, it doesn't belong to a country because it talks about the universe. So it's we are part of the universe as well. But it's there's a sort of they don't trust this kind of things, the new things, and so it has been really difficult. On top of that, usually for an independent production company to face the expenses, the cost of a sci-fi movie is almost impossible. In fact, it was impossible. We didn't have the budget of a regular sci-fi movie, okay? So don't expect a regular American sci-fi movie, because it's not going to be that. But yes, we made it like the same. and it was a long and very difficult process. But I had a very, very good and brave production company. Angelo and Matilde Barbagallo did a great job, I think.
And you also, and this is what I wanted to ask you briefly, you have one of the greatest actors, working in Italy a lot today, Valerio Mastandrea.
Yeah.
So it's, and it's your second film, and it's a small independent film. How did Valerio come to your film?
But actually, Valerio was in one of my first short movies. And back
Paola,
then,
by the way, directed a lot of shorts before her first movie, which
Yes,
came out
yes.
6 or 7 years ago,
yeah,
right? Into
exactly,
Paradiso.
Into Paradiso. But because I started this to do cinema very late, and so the main academies, cinema academies, wouldn't take me because I was too old, and so I had to learn somehow, and so I basically did an enormous lot, a lot of short films in order to learn. And but the beginning was with Valerio, because I wrote this story. I used to work in a PR company, and there was a client of mine who was like not selling but renting cameras, digital cameras, and he knew that I was able to write because that was my job. And he asked me, look, but do you have anything for Valerio Mastandrea, which was super famous at the time? And because it's a friend of ours, and we would like to make a promotional short film for this, renting these cameras. And I said, yes, because I had this story that would fit perfectly for Valerio, which was the story of a garbage man which falls in love for a girl that he has never seen by the things that he finds in the garbage, So basically, and this short film was called Giulietta della Spazzatura. So I wrote a treatment and we sent it to Valerio, and Valerio called me. He didn't know me at all, and he called me like 3 weeks later saying, "Okay, I'm gonna do it." And so we became friends. And I thought that Valerio was just perfect for the part. First of all, because he's got this humanity, which is really vibrant, and he makes everything believable. Like you believe in him, no matter where you put him and what you want him to do, but like really you believe in him. And then he, puts together this kind of, great sense of humor with this note of melancholy, which is quite nice, and that my protagonist needed to have. And then I have my wonderful kids. We have 2 little kids, first time on screen, and to find them, that was a big challenge. We saw more than 860 kids in Naples, which was a wonderful experience, by the way. And we picked this 2, which we found this 2, a girl and a little boy, and they're really amazing. I mean, you will tell me afterwards, but they are really great. I'm really proud of my kids.
Wonderful. I think we should leave now, the audience, to watch this wonderful film. And I think you will, if somebody wants to ask some questions to Paola, she'll be around at the end of the film for some questions.
Thank you for coming, first of all. Thank you for having me here. It's a real thank you for being marvelous as always. And nothing. Enjoy the movie, and this is all I can say before, because otherwise I will tell you the movie and you are not going to watch it.
No, be surprised, because it's a movie full of little wonderful surprises.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the movie.